Hey dude, what's up? Sure, I have some free time. Something wrong? Oh, awesome! Yeah, of course I can. Any particular story you were thinking of? Oh boy, the Titanomachy? That's a big subject. No pun intended. So, where are we starting from? I mean, how much do you know? Is this like a fill in the fine details, I know the main story, or are you walking in totally blind? Totally blind then. A tall order. I mean, okay, I can explain it, but it's going to take a lot of context. You know how I like to skip to the interesting bits and ignore all the prologue? Yeah, we can't do that here. I'll have to start from the very beginning. You sure you're up for that? Alright then. Take a seat. This'll take a while. First, there was nothing. Then, there was Kelvin! Wait, chaos. There was chaos. Well, the two might be kind of the same. No, I am not sorry. I will make all the Calvin and Hobbes references I damn well want, thank you very much. Anyway, there was nothing, and then there was chaos. Or maybe the nothing was chaos? Just an endless sea of formlessness, the only true word for it, nothingness, because there wasn't anything for it to be everything? This is this is the kind of concept that doesn't really describe well, and there have been enough different translations that it could mean a lot of different things. I think I have to go with the chaos was the only thing there was version, though. It seems to fit a little better than just appearing from the void. Regardless, at some point there was chaos, which didn't mean what we think of it as there were no falling pianos, things on fire, or random emus running around, just formlessness, a lack of order. And after a long time, this lack of order became sentient. How? Why? Dunno. But it makes a kind of sense if you think about it. Alright, your eyes are starting to glaze over. I won't get into the philosophy of sentience tonight. Chaos became a thinking being, and it was happy for a time, chilling there, the only thing in the universe. Happy for a time so long, the entire history of the world is an eye blink next to it. But, as before, things couldn't stay the same forever. Chaos eventually got lonely. And yeah, I know, I'm aware, I have no clue how something that had only ever been the only thing in the universe even conceptualized the idea of another being, much less came to the conclusion that it wanted companionship. I guess the physical embodiment of a lack of rules doesn't really have to care about things like logic and inconceivability, though. The word really doesn't mean what we think it means. Shush you. Chaos got lonely, so it decided to create a companion from its own substance. How this created something that wasn't just more chaos, the world will never know. Jeez, I've been saying that a lot lately. I guess this is kind of a subject that defies easy description. Humans aren't really meant to comprehend primordial forces like that. It'll break your brain if you think about it too long. Regardless, new companion. Gaia the Earth. Chaos created her, all the mountains and forests and jungles and deserts and assorted other Minecraft biomes, and the whole thing became sentient. Yes, it did. Of course it did. Was that even a question at this point? Gaia came to life, and for another long time the two were happy together. I have no clue what their relationship was like. Parent-child, friendship, romance, just sitting in companionable silence? Dunno. But it could have been almost anything. It doesn't really matter, because after a while, Gaia decided that it wasn't enough for her. She realized that a being of formless nothingness wasn't exactly the best conversational companion, I guess, so she wanted to make someone else. Of course, legends say she wanted to do a lot more than talking, and that's what she needed someone else for, but that kind of salaciousness isn't for this story now, is it? So she took a bunch of Chaos's essence, I guess it didn't mind, and formed it into a new being. Only, she wasn't very good at it? Maybe Chaos was better at working with its own essence. Maybe Gaia was a 1 in a billion fluke. I don't know. But Gaia's first creation, another primordial force named Pontus, ended up being twisted and stunted, incapable of doing much on his own. He was the oceans, or some would say the waters, all of them. He couldn't really leave Gaia, and didn't make for good conversation either. I'm not going to say he was a child, because he wasn't, but he was definitely childlike, and Gaia wasn't into that. So she decided to try again. This time, she made Tartarus, the pit, and he was better. Strong, independent, capable of standing on his own, apart from her. Incapable of doing anything else. You see, Somehow, in her desire to make him more separate from her than Pontus was, she made it so they could never actually touch or interact. Yeah, not ideal. So, by this point, the empty spot inside of her was aching, and she was truly desperate to make a deity that could fill it. This is where I would tell you to take your mind out of the gutter. If I hadn't fully intended that double entendre. You're welcome to stay down there if you desire, but something I haven't talked about yet. Every time she used Chaos's essence to create something new, she shrunk Chaos itself. Weakened it. She didn't want to destroy her progenitor entirely, she just wanted someone new to be with. She told herself she'd try once, and only once more, and if it didn't work, resign herself to an eternity of sorrow. So, once more she tried, and at this time, she poured everything she had into it. So once more she tried, and this time she poured everything she had into it. Her hopes and fears, her loneliness and desire, her love for something that didn't yet exist, and a bit too much of chaos. She used so much of the primordial essence of the universe that it forced Chaos away, deep into hibernation. Not quite dead, but unable to perform even the limited interactions it had before. For all intents and purposes, gone. And Gaia would have been sad, except the being she created was perfect. Oranos, the sky, strong, powerful, beautiful as the stars, not reliant on her, but not inaccessible. With him came galaxies and constellations, and the sun above the earth, and Gaia was pleased. He wasn't malformed, he wasn't too far away, nothing about him was missing at all, except, oh dear, his soul. More on that in a minute. For now, Gaia had finally found a companion, and I don't even know if they nectared and dined each other before jumping to the baby making, because babies were made fast. Yeah, that does kind of lend weight to the whole more horny than lonely thing, but I suppose Oranos could help with both. Regardless of what happened first, though, there were children on the way, and when they came, there were 12 of them. Dodecuplets. Yeah, that must have been one hell of a teething era. But they were as beautiful as their parents, strong and shining like stars. You already know who these guys are, the Titans. And I can definitely remember all their names. This might take a second, though. Kronos, Oceanus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Krios, Koios, Mnemosyne, Tethys, Themis, Rhea, obviously, and two more? No, don't Google them! I can get it! Just another second! You didn't have to Google it, you jerk. I would have gotten Thea and Phoebe. Thea? God, I can't believe I forgot the only two with normal names. How does it even work in my brain? I can only remember things that are hard to remember. Explains why I never know any of my passwords, I guess. Okay, so 12 shining, perfect children walking the earth and under the sky, and when Gaia looked upon them, she felt love, and when Oranos looked upon them, he was pleased. Their nice little utopia didn't last very long, though, because someone felt the need to make more babies. Don't know which, maybe both. But Sky and Land went back at it, and a little while later out popped more children. Only triplets this time, thankfully. These, however, were less beautiful than the Titans. Brutish, malformed and misshapen, lumpy with muscle even just out of the womb, and with a single giant eye in the middle of their foreheads, these were the Cyclops. And Gaia looked upon them and felt just as much love as she had for her eldest children. Oranos, however, did not. Yeah, we both know what's about to happen. He decided that these three were monsters, an insult to him and his divinity, and he would not stomach them walking under his all-seeing gaze. He took the newborn triplets from their mother and cast them far away into Tartarus, where he would never have to look at them again, and where Gaia could not reach to bring them home. He knew that, as children of Sky and Earth, they would grow up to wield serious power, so he created a guardian, a gatekeeper and a jailer, a monster even more terrifying than them, whose purpose was to raise the Cyclops, to keep their heads down and their spirits broken, to make sure they'd never try to leave the pit they'd been cast into. Campe. Frankly, the less said about her, the better. Yeah, some of those old legends can stay buried, especially ones that nightmare-inducing. Oh, of course Gaia was upset. She screamed in rage, tried to hold on to her children, punched and kicked Oranos, earthquakes, continental shifts, tectonic rearrangement, etc. But she was weak after just giving birth, and Oranos was strong. He took the Cyclops, and there was nothing Gaia could do but weep. I swear to God, this is not a time to make a he took the kids joke. This is a serious moment, and... Okay, fine, it was kind of funny. Fuck you, though. Yeah. So, anyway, after that whole debacle was over, there was a shocking lack of fallout, really. I mean, yeah, Gaia was upset, but the Titans couldn't really bring themselves to care about the siblings they'd never met, the other primal forces weren't paying much attention, and Oranos was content to pretend the whole thing never happened. He even wanted to try again for more kids. Yeah, I don't want to think about how that conversation went. Hey, honey, let's have another baby. Why, so you can throw it into hell again? No? Uh-huh. But I guess he figured out how to be charming again, offering back rubs and putting on the mood music, or maybe she just decided this time it wouldn't go wrong as previously? That there's no way he'd throw away 2 sets of children? Because eventually she agreed. Soon enough, more babies were on the way. When they came, the earth shook. 3 giants, yep, more triplets, there seems to be a theme, each the size of a mountain with 50 faces and 100 arms. These were called Hecatonchires. But since that word is completely unpronounceable and I can't say it more than once, we'll just go with the 100-handed ones. 3 guesses as to what Oranos thought of them. Into the pit they went. So now, Gaia was completely disillusioned. Oranos was still beautiful, but all she could see was the horror of the unending void where his soul should have been. Wait, that actually kind of makes sense. It wasn't supposed to. I was just gonna joke about how the darkness of space goes on forever, but, that's actually a valid metaphor for a soul. Am I secretly a good writer? Okay, yeah. Only on accident, that makes sense. Anyway, Gaia, pissed, peeved, ticked off, upset, irate, fuming, miffed. Oh, I have so many. We ain't even gotten to splenetic yet. Just hold for a second. Fine. Killjoy. Gaia mad. Big mad. But she couldn't do anything about it, because even if she hadn't been tired from the effort of giving birth to the 100-handed ones, Oranos was strong. Much stronger than her. She did come first, yeah, but that wasn't the most important thing here. Oranos was made out of more chaos essence than she was. In trying to make him perfect, she made him powerful, maybe thinking the two were the same? I don't know. But she knew she couldn't win that fight. Not on her own. Well, who else could she possibly enlist to kill the sky? Let's think. Oranos himself? Unlikely. Chaos? No, too asleep. Pontus? No, too useless. Tartarus? No, too untouchable. Her Cyclops and the 100-handed ones? Maybe if they were just a little nearer. Wait. Idea. No, it's fine. It's not like I'm the one telling the story or anything. Well, I don't want to say it now. The fun's gone out of it. Fine. She went to her first children, the Titans, for help. None of them individually had the power the primal deities pack, but each one was still a serious threat, and there were 12 of them. She figured all of them together could handle Oranos. To even the odds even more, though, she came to them bearing a gift. Something that had never been created before, never even been conceived. A gift made out of all her rage and grief and love turned to burning hatred. Made out of adamant and iron and blood. A sickle! A weapon! No, this is a thing! Before this, no one had ever considered killing each other. There had been squabbles and roughhousing between the Titans, of course, but no serious anger. Even if there had been, no one would have considered using an outside implement as a power amplifier. Fights were on your own strength and divine might. Oranos would never see it coming because he hadn't even thought about the possibility. I guess Gaia was able to come up with it through sheer rage. My life would be better if this person didn't exist. I should make him not exist. Then she got to turn him into tiny little pieces via sharp implements from there. And once she figured all that out, all that was left was to convince the Titans to kill him. Well, he was their father, after all. He'd always been good to them. And besides, he was scary. None of them wanted to mess with that. Oceanus was the first to dip out. He didn't want any kind of smoke, just wanted to keep chilling in the waters with his brother? Cousin? Uncle? Let's call him Uncle Pontus. After Oceanus, all the girls were out at once. They conferred amongst themselves and decided they were all pacifists. Not a term that means very much before the first real act of violence, but they were staying out of it nonetheless. 4 of the remaining 5 were kinda looking at each other nervously. None of them wanted to let their mom down, but, well, were they really cut out for this? What would happen if they weren't? What would happen even if they were? How would things work afterward? None of them wanted to say it, but they were all thinking, I can't do this, one or the other should, as hard as they could. I can't really blame them for that. I mean, patricide isn't really something to just do on a casual Tuesday. They were all freaking out about it a bit. One of them, though, wasn't freaking out at all. The youngest. The one who'd always been a little crooked, who'd seen the world a little differently. The one who saw the sickle, and finally understood what power meant, and understood he wanted all of it. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Kronos! History's first killer, according to the Greeks. Kronos took the sickle, his eyes glowing and his smile crooked. He already had a plan. Yeah, Gaia probably should have seen the bad signs here, but she loved her children, and she was blinded by rage. She told Kronos that if he killed Ouranos and freed his brothers from Tartarus, he could be the king and rule over all living beings. Well, the legends aren't super clear there. It's distinctly possible that Ouranos was the king before all of this, but there's another interpretation. Rulers and the ruled came into being as a concept with the first weapon, like they were tied together. Gaia and Kronos both realized instinctively that as long as there was such a thing as power, someone would have the most power, and everyone would have to do what they said or else. This way of understanding the world would have consequences later? Maybe it's a little less frightening to view power as distinct from the ability to kill. Maybe it's not as real, though. I don't really know whether there was a throne before there was a way to remove the one sitting on it, or a crown before there was a way to remove the wearer's head. But regardless, they're both afterwards, and Kronos planned to be the one with both. You're right, he was gonna keep the sickle, too. That might not have meant as much, since once the first implement of death was envisioned, it could be copied fairly easily, but our Titan of Time wasn't about to give up anything he didn't have to. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that, did I? Kronos is Lord of Time, that's where we get chronological order. Kronos is still ordering people around. Let's not go down that path of thought, okay? Just back to our casual descriptions of violent patricide. It's less unsettling. Yeah. So Kronos had the plan. All he needed was his brother's assistance. The remaining 4 were still scared, but none of them wanted to look like pussies after their youngest brother was willing to do the deed. So they all agreed to kill this guy. Okay, that's a good question. Yes, the sky is still up there, but that doesn't... Actually, no. No, you know what? No, I'll explain it when we get there. Patience, Grasshopper, you'll understand it. I promise it's simpler than philosophy, alright? It has to be, otherwise I wouldn't understand it either. Am I allowed to continue now? Thank you, Your Highness. So, the first step of Kronos' cunning plan involved Gaia. She had to lure Ouranos down from the sky, or lure his avatar, or his presence, or his awareness, or something. The actual overhead sky that was his body couldn't fall on them, obviously, but he had to come down to Earth in some kind of avatar form. Since this was the way he'd come down to smash in the past, the way forward was clear. Okay, look, how metaphysical do you want to get? Because I guarantee you don't want me to go into a whole lecture circuit on the gods' avatars and how they were different from them, but part of them in their entirety all at the exact same time, or how interactions between the anthropomorphic personifications of primordial forces actually work in a scientific sense. Are you gonna tell me you want that? Well, then you're just gonna have to accept that Ouranos could come down from his body, which was the actual heavens overhead, and into a body that walked the earth, and that kind of non-capitalized body was the only way he could be killed. It was also the only way he could tap Gaia's ass, though, so he was very willing to put himself in that vulnerable position. Right, especially since he had no reason to think of it as vulnerable. He still had full access to his power, and he obviously wasn't worried about his own children or wife attacking him. Probably he even never conceptualized true violence. He didn't kill the Cyclops or the 100-handed ones, did he? Just tossed them where he didn't have to look at them. He felt totally safe going down on his avatar because he'd never known what it was like to feel unsafe. Again, just not a concept that made sense to him. Yeah, not yet. He was about to learn. But before that, he got a phone call from Gaia. Hey babe, you up? The way you threw those kids down with your big, muscly arms was just so damn hot. On my way! Yeah, no. I got no idea how he fell for it either. I guess the sky isn't a job title that requires exceptional brains. So he comes down to their avatar's usual meeting spot on the surface, all ready for a good time, and he sees Gaia standing there wearing her nicest outfit, or maybe lack thereof, stories aren't super clear, and she's holding up the most winning smile she's got. She has to, or he'll get suspicious, even if she wants nothing more than to jump up and use that sickle on the bastard herself. And Oranos is walking towards her, fancy bottle of champagne in his hand. Yes, even without a France, there was champagne. Deal with it. Bedroom eyes right on her, getting more excited by the set. Now! Kronos and the others had been hiding behind a rock the whole time so that the sky couldn't see them. When Oranos got close enough, Kronos gave the signal, and the four, Koios, Krios, Hyperion, and Iapetus, jumped his ass. This wasn't just a physical struggle, naturally. All of them were exerting as much divine might as they could, because it was the only way they even stood a chance. They weren't trying to get into a drawn-out fight with their dad, because he beat them to a pulp and they knew it. They just needed to knock him down. So the four leaped at him and overbore him like hounds jumping onto a stag. Or maybe a moose for the sheer bulk. Once Oranos realized what was happening, he started struggling, trying to throw his kids away so he could get on his feet and figure out what the fuck was going on. He wasn't exactly in the most present frame of mind because of how hard he was focused on Gaia, and how hard he was focused on Gaia, so his reaction time was a little slow. Just slow enough for each Titan to catch a flailing limb and pin him down. They couldn't hold long because, well, have you ever tried to hold down the sky? Not a winning battle long term, but they could hold him long enough for Kronos to approach with the sickle. I don't know if he gave some kind of speech, or if he let his mother talk, or if he just smiled before he did the deed, but yeah. Trigger warning. Blood and gore.